Welcome to Story Punk. I am Scott.
And I am Drew. Hello.
Hello. How are you this fine day? Actually, we're thawing out finally from a deep freeze around here in Maryland.
I would say it still feels like French fries and gravy weather.
Yeah.
So I would like that right now.
Just say you want my roast beef sandwich. Just say it. So we're here today to talk about the movie Diner from 1982,
Oof.
directed by Barry Levinson.
Almost as old as us.
And speak for yourself. And
Sorry.
actually, when I say that because I'm actually older. This movie is about a group of 20-something buddies that are struggling with their imminent passage into adulthood in 1959 Baltimore.
The last week of 1959.
Yes, the last week. Yes, because I wasn't sure at first. Like, I don't know. The only way that I assumed that was at the very end. I saw it was like they had like a thing that said something about like welcome 1960 or something like that. But I was never really clear if it was 1959. But I knew.
No, it said at the beginning. It said 1959.
Oh, did it?
On screen, and then you're right. The wedding, Steve Guttenberg's wedding, which almost didn't happen because she didn't know enough Colts.
I know. Or
it says
football trivia.
It's right. It says their names, for the 60s and forever or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. So we had quite a cast. And it is fun to see some of these actors like so young. Daniel Stern, who most people will remember from Home Alone movies, and he looks like a kid. Because you're so used to seeing him with his, with the beard, and even when you think of a movie like City Slickers, even then, obviously he looks older, but that's just like, they just all look so young. You have Steve Guttenberg, who plays Eddie. You have Mickey Rourke, who plays Boogie. Kevin Bacon is Fenwick. Daniel Stern is Shrevey. I guess that's how you say it.
I believe that's what they call him. Yeah.
Tim Daly is Billy. Paul Reiser is Modell, and Ellen Barkin is Beth. So that's our cast here. So quite a stacked cast.
Indeed.
Yeah. So this movie is really about, it's sort of like the main theme, I think, is sort of like anxiety of growing up, of becoming like real adults. You do have Daniel Stern's character is married to Ellen Barkin. So
they're all very, very young.
Yeah, they're all very young. So it's, but that was a time frame. This is something that I find interesting to me. My aunt is, she's only 16 years older than me, but from that time frame, from when she was born, they were, she got married right out of high school. Mm-hmm. Very common thing from that era. She graduated early 70s, and I think 74 or so, but it was very common, get married right out of high school that year. Now, I'm only 16 years younger than her, and by the time I was in high school and I was a senior in high school, like, nobody talked about getting married. Like, like, it would have been weird.
Right.
Like, I didn't know, not a single person that I went to high school with got married right out of high school. And I went to a smaller Catholic high school, but still, it was like.
I don't know a lot of couples that were high school sweethearts that are our age that are still together at all. Never mind, they got married right out of school. I know people that have been together since high school that, after they went to college, after they started careers or whatever, then they got married, bought a house, started a family, all those things that are too expensive to do now. But the movie, I think, does a lot of different things, and one of the things it does well is it captures two things. One is for anybody watching the movie, it captures that era, but also it really captures Baltimore. I don't know about you, but I recognize all those locations, so it's kind of fun to recognize the 80s Baltimore, which is very different, and then it's being used as 50s Baltimore, which is very different. So.
I actually, some of those locations, I used to live. I lived in Fells Point, like Canton area. That's where I lived, where they shot. So I recognized a lot of those, sort of that,
the can company.
Sure.
That's.
I used to pass by. I believe it's been a few years since I've been down there. I believe that's still there.
Yeah, it's all retail and stuff. They repurposed all these industrial buildings of Baltimore. Like when I was working downtown, I worked in as many spaces that were, architecturally redesigned and rejuvenated, like a church or a furniture factory.
Sure.
I worked in as many of those as in a more traditional skyscraper office. That's Baltimore finding its own way out of the industrial.
Yeah, because I know like there was certain areas like in the Fells Point area where were definitely like manufacturing, industrial like areas that are now like you said, that there's like an Outback and
right
and some other various like retail establishments in there. So that's that's what they did. But it was fun to watch that and then go, oh, I definitely remember being like I used to drive by these areas, and it's funny because this is actually this is the first of our 2 movies about Baltimore, and
we're both from Baltimore.
Yes, the second one is even there's a specific thing that I'll talk about that I saw in that movie where they drive by, but it's fun to see when a movie takes place in your hometown to see all those little areas, and
well, you have to be careful though with that because this is a problem that us people from Baltimore had with a lot of these things that anybody would have. You're like, especially, it's actually more true in the Baltimoreans. They're driving somewhere, and you're like, wait, why are they there?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter because if you don't know Baltimore geography, you don't know that that's the other side of town, kind of thing. But if you don't get distracted by that stuff because the movie has engaged you, then it doesn't matter. Because I think it's fun to recognize stuff, and I don't care if they turned right in Fells Point and now they're in Mount Vernon. Like I just don't care.
That's and that's one of the things that I liked about both of these movies is that the Baltimoreans. That I don't know if I said that. The Baltimoreans is the other movie that
yes,
we're talking about.
The Baltimoreans.
But it's definitely, you can tell that the people that wrote that, they understood the they were from here because sometimes when somebody it's not from here writes about, and I think people that live in places outside of Hollywood, there's a specific geographical location and you're from that location, and then you're always like, oh God, they got that completely wrong. Even down to, not even location wise, but just things like I think it's funny that they talk about in the beginning, in Baltimore, there is a long history of us not liking the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right.
And they actually mention that so that's very authentic. And actually, I didn't even know, even as a football fan, I didn't even realize that the hate of the Steelers went back that far, because they said, "Oh, at least it's not yellow and black like Steelers colors."
Well, I also remember when, especially watching the wedding at the end, which is in Colts colors.
Yes,
I remember thinking, these poor people, the heartbreak ahead.
I know, that's true. I do think about that too.
When the Ursays steal the Colts in the middle of the night, literally in the middle of the night on Mayflower vans, and take them to Indianapolis, and the heartbreak and everything. It was really the betrayal, which I remember when that happened. And I didn't feel that level of betrayal, but you see for decades that people were so invested in this team. They were our team. And I remember it just popped in my head. Oh, these poor people.
Yeah, I know.
Suffering ahead.
I know. Could you imagine? I would have loved for them to do some kind of like sequel where they talk about that. That would be so interesting to me, just about that. Even if it was like a short that someone did about those characters like complaining about that. But one of the things that in this theme about the movement from you're sort of this journey from you're from your boyhood to manhood and becoming an adult and doing all those things that we associate with being adults and becoming or getting married. One of the things that I feel like, and not to, at the risk of starting some kind of generational, mudslinging here, I do feel like that. I think it's when you see this the way that marriage is kind of treated by that generation, which is the Boomer generation.
Are you talking about the wedding?
Well, the whole thing about like especially when Daniel Stern. When Shrevey is talking about his marriage,
Gotcha.
But just the general attitude from this generation. I'm not saying all generations.
You can, it's okay.
I mean, not all people from that generation,
right?
Because I know there are plenty of people that I know in my family that are still together that have great relationships. but that they're from that boomer generation,
or they're just still together.
Yeah, well, no. That's why I'm making the distinction. There are some that are still together, and it's not a great relationship. So these are the type of people that I'm talking about,
Gotcha.
or that are divorced, and that is that there is this weird and I don't feel like it's as prevalent with once you get to to Gen X, and then especially once you get out of Gen X into like the millennials. I don't feel like the idea of marriage as sort of like this prison or this very like reluctant proposition that you're entering into, that the man is like, I have to do this.
Right.
I feel like I feel like it was so prevalent in that generation. At least that's my take on it. Feel free to anyone out there listening that doesn't agree with that, but I just feel like it was such a there's such disdain from especially about the wife. I mean, look at something like even a show like The Honeymooners, and I know I've said this because I think I talked about I can't remember what episode it was, but I did talk about that. Sometimes I think we're a little unfair when we look at certain pieces of media, when we look
older stuff.
Yes,
I agree.
We look through like 2026 eyes at those things, and not to excuse them, but sometimes we're a little overly harsh.
Yeah,
so
I mean, not everything that was made at a different time with values of a different time is Soul Man.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like The Honeymooners. I mean, he's literally talking about punching his wife.
Yeah,
and that's like a punchline to a joke.
Yeah,
where like, could you imagine if they tried to make something like that today?
Now it would be a wry commentary on the era of The Honeymooners,
maybe.
And it really wouldn't acknowledge that it was funny. It would be about that this was not okay, and now the people who like the show that I'm talking about, they're too woke or some nonsense. So.
But anyway, so that's sort of what I thought about when you hear him talk about, like, I don't know, like what Daniel Stern's character's like, I don't know, like it's sort of like this whole thing where it's like, I don't understand what marriage is even about. Like
well, I think you're touching on a theme that's actually even broader than that. Because I would say I don't understand that what they're saying. I don't understand what women are about, because women are scary and mysterious and maybe not people. And that doesn't, when I say not people, I don't mean like, therefore they deserve a level of disrespect or something, but they're so alien to these young men. It's not just as simple as I'm trying to get laid. Like, that's part of it, but this isn't Porky's or something like that.
Yeah.
And so these guys don't know anything about women, and they tend not to treat them as people, even if they marry them.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I think is sort of maybe like a sort of like a secondary,
which is
theme.
accurate.
Yeah, with a secondary theme, which is sort of like these men. There's sort of like this emotional illiteracy of men.
No, that's a good way to put
and
it.
They don't like they can't express their feelings to the women in their lives, so they, I feel like they kind of bury themselves in like the things that they feel confident in, like sports trivia,
right? Or Kevin Bacon's rich son of a rich family who doesn't know what to do with himself, so he becomes a drunk, and he's going to visit his friends drunk at 10:00 in the morning or whatever.
Yeah, and I think they kind of illustrate, like when they show like the College Bowl, they show that he's wasted potential because he's obviously very smart and intelligent. He's not just he's not Tommy Boy, you know what I mean? Right. It's like this guy probably could be very capable if he wanted to, but he's a little, for whatever reason, is kind of directionless. But so this is one of the things about this movie that I kept going back and forth the whole time. I'm like, is this movie? Is it intentionally being juvenile, or is it just juvenile? You know what I mean? Because some of the stuff is a little juvenile.
You mean their behavior?
Yeah,
or the way the movie looks at them. Because their behavior feels realistic to me, and some of their stuff is juvenile because they're like in the college age and they're not adults yet. Well, and they are trying to be adults in a world that is different than the world that we live in now. So
I think because sometimes movies are showing characters that they're written as they're trying to make commentary, and sometimes they're written just because the writer's goofy. You know what I mean? And so that's why it's sort of like that's why I kept going back and forth. It was like, are they is he just, because when that Barry Levinson wrote, like, these characters are loosely based on people that he knows.
That's the thing. He's really writing about his own life, but it's not the story of how Barry Levinson, the Jewish kid from Baltimore, became a director.
Sure.
It's about this group of friends. Like Boogie Wineglass
Yes.
is a real person
Yeah.
who, merry-go-round clothes and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And there's actually a documentary called, I haven't seen it, what is it called? I think Original Diner Guys or something.
Yeah.
And you can watch that and you can see that, the premise of the documentary is we're not one-to-one characters,
Yeah.
but this is really this guy. This guy was, became a lawyer, and this guy became a businessman, and this
Sure.
guy liked gambling and all that kind of stuff. And I think, Barry Levinson has done 4 movies that are period films that are set in Baltimore. I prefer, I guess it's his last 2, because after this was Tin Men with Danny DeVito,
I think
right?
so.
And then he did Avalon, which I love that movie. And then he did Liberty Heights, which I also really like that movie a lot too. And this is the most personal. This is like he and his friends, like they really hung out at the Hilltop Diner on Reisterstown Road. And, these guys grew up in my old neighborhood that I grew up in.
Oh, I thought it was
and
the
all kinds
Double
of-
T Diner.
No, I think it's called the Hilltop. I think is where they met. Or it was where they would get together. And, so they have a space where they can sort of just be themselves, and they can have, like, I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you listened to it this time. Obviously, we've seen this movie before because we're from Baltimore and legally we have to. But during the credits, you just hear another conversation.
Yeah.
They're having it, and it's just goofy guys hanging out shit. And it's not like locker room talk and everybody's being put down and stuff. They're just busting balls. It's like that show Rescue Me, the Dennis Leary firefighter show. It's a very entertaining show. It's a very dark show in the shadow of 9/11 and all this kind of stuff. It's also got some of the most authentic, like, firemen are these guys just sitting around busting balls. And that's pretty entertaining. So I didn't love this movie. I didn't get super engaged by it, but the acting is so good.
Yeah.
And the feel of it is real enough that I just believe them, which means I believe that some of these guys are, basically just jerks or just children.
Well, when I think
like Steve Guttenberg getting married is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, he's a child.
Yeah. Well, when I think about when I contrast this with something like American Graffiti,
Right.
For some reason, like American Graffiti, which there's definitely some immaturity going on there,
Sure.
but for some reason, I felt like the commentary that was being made felt more. I'm freely will admit that maybe it's just a me thing. Like for some reason, I kind of got that more than I did.
You got American Graffiti more?
Yeah, than this, because I was kind of like the whole time it was like, is he just spitting out like these like sort of like almost like they're not exactly vignettes. I mean, there is sort of a story that's going on, but there are these like these stories are kind of loosely held together that he's telling here in this narrative. And so I was like, are these just stories from his from his younger years, and that's where you know what I mean? And that's why I was kind of like, is he really aware of what he's trying to say? Is he really trying to make a point, or is he just trying to say, hey, these are guys just hanging out? Like,
you have to remember, for me, I grew up in Jewish Baltimore.
Yes.
This was Jewish Baltimore before the Jewish Baltimore I grew up in, because I was born in 1976. But like all these guys went to Forest Park High School.
Okay.
My family is not from this area, but I know people whose their parents, they went to Forest Park High School. They knew some of these people, or they knew some of these people's, kid siblings and things like that were in school with them, that kind of stuff. And it feels real. Like I remember with Liberty Heights, there's a whole storyline about like an uncle that gets caught up in gambling or something. He gets in trouble with a bookie or whatever, and in the 50s, and that's my family. Like there's a story of a cousin that has that, and it felt very real. And I think what Barry Levinson brings to these movies that he doesn't always bring to other movies, but he has, is his writing it feels very real, which doesn't necessarily mean it's very exciting.
Yeah.
Like this is a movie that I don't even know that it has a main character. It's really an ensemble because the main character is these 6 guys that are buds. 6 guys? 5 guys? 6 guys.
The 6 guys.
And some of them are more central than others. I don't know if you watched there's a little intro on the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
That's from the documentary that they asked, like, what should I know before I watch this movie?
Mm-hmm.
And Paul Reiser's like, well, you should watch the beginning, and then there's like bullshit.
Just watch the parts that I'm in.
And then there I am. And like, it's funny because some of these guys, especially Paul Reiser, they're like fully formed their personalities that they've then done. Like that's the same Paul Reiser that's in Stranger Things this year, and like all that kind of stuff. And I think what's cool about it is that Barry Levinson as a director got these incredible performances out of the great casting, and he wrote this, and it feels very real. And so there's at least three possible main characters. It could be Mickey Rourke, it could be Tim Daly, it could be Steve Guttenberg, and that makes it harder for me to decide what storyline I'm into. So I remember moments of the movie that I like the whole strip club scene is really entertaining.
Yeah,
but it does feel real. Including that, like, there are people who do things that aren't likable. I don't think they're evil.
No. Yeah,
and then, like, Mickey Rourke's like, my best friend's wife is really sad, so I think I'll have sex with her. But you know what? That's not cool. I'm not going to do that. And like, am I supposed to applaud the inveterate gamblers? Kind of, like, and I don't know how much of that is the storyline of this specific individual person in Barry Levinson's life, but all this stuff feels like I saw that. Like it's like The Pit. The Pit is they've got ER doctors that are consultants, and I saw an interview with one, and he's like, basically every storyline is from the hundreds of thousands of hours that we've spent doing this. Yeah. So it's not about this specific patient, but that wound, that event, that whatever. It's all from that stuff, and this movie feels observed like that to me.
Holy shit! There was a lot of smoking in this movie.
Yes, well,
I know it was the time, but it's funny because I feel like
like when Steve Guttenberg wakes up and starts
smokes.
smoking.
Yeah, that's
and it's all unfiltered, right? It's all like Lucky Strikes.
Probably,
and stuff. So they're probably all dead before. Some of them are definitely dead before the Colts leave. So that's
that's reassuring. But the thing. Yeah, there was. I mean, it's interesting because of the fact that it's like I feel like even in period pieces, it's like I feel like smoking is so sparingly done. Like I feel like they do it.
You mean a period
accuracy.
Piece now?
Yeah,
I got you.
Something that's made like in the 2020s now. We're just so far removed from smoking, like as just like at least here, and I don't know. Maybe it's just our state. Maybe I don't know. Maybe if we go to another state, it's different. But I just know it's very much it's almost jarring now to see people smoking. Mm-hmm. And it was just funny to see that, like you said, Steve Guttenberg wakes up, smokes a cigarette. I was like, I couldn't imagine.
Oh yeah. Well, look, I mean, I remember when I lived in LA, it was the late '90s, and you could still smoke in bars and things like that. Yeah. So my favorite bar that I would hang out in when I went to a bar that was near where I lived, it was called Father's Office, which is a great name. Yeah. And it was a non-smoking bar. Yeah. So like that was an attraction. Now the idea of walking into a bar, never mind even like a bar, walking into, I don't know, the Chili's or something with a bar. Yeah. Absolutely you don't smoke or anything. And these guys, I stopped seeing it. The only time I remember right now going, oh, well, dude, was when Steve Guttenberg wakes up. Because that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, when I was, I remember, when you could smoke here in here in Baltimore,
right?
Because even certain counties, so because it started going through certain counties, right? Started banning smoking. But I remember even when I first started dating, my wife, I was like, you could still smoke at some of the bars here in Baltimore, and I remember we went on a trip to Boston, and they had banned smoking. And it was so refreshing to go to a bar and not smell like smoke, like leave and not smell like smoke.
Yeah,
because it sucked because if you had like a nice jacket that you wore out, like that jacket was like you had to get it either dry cleaned or
and if everybody smokes, then I guess you don't really notice it that much. But
I mean,
I don't smoke, and I remember exactly what you're talking about.
But if you had like a nice jacket, you were like, oh God, I gotta wash this, or I gotta take it somewhere to get it clean.
Washing clothes is so boring already. So.
Well, I'm talking about jackets. I mean, if you have like a nice jacket, like some of them you can't just throw into the washing machine, and you're like,
well, you can, but you'll be sorry.
Well, yeah, that's true. It's like you can run into traffic too. But but anyway.
Well, if you run into traffic, there is a chance you'll be like Frogger and you'll get to the next level. If you throw your dry clean only thing in the washing machine, you probably are in trouble.
Probably. So this anyway, back to the plot. Sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a smoking tangent, but but as far as this plot goes, like I was saying before, it does feel like it feels like a bunch of like short stories. Like everybody has their own little thing that's going on.
It is episodic.
Yes. So you have like Tim Daly. It's Billy, right?
Yes.
I had it written down here in my notes.
Well, one of them is named Boogie. Yeah. The rest of their names kind of run together.
Yeah, I have. So and I know Steve Guttenberg's Eddie. So, but like, so Steve Guttenberg, obviously, he's like sort of the big event of the movie is that he's got this ridiculous football trivia that he's gonna pull on his fiance. I mean, like not pull. I shouldn't say that. She knows it's coming,
right?
Which is weird to me. But anyway, that so there's that whole thing. He's getting married, and then Mickey Rourke has his whole thing, and one of the sort of the underlying parts of his story is that he owes money, which he owes $2,000, which is like if I owed somebody $2,000, even now, 70 years later from when this,
that ain't
well,
nothing.
not 70, it was wait a minute, 64. Yeah, like whatever.
Yeah.
Many years, decades later, I would have a. I couldn't just come up with $2,000.
It's not nothing.
Yeah,
But back
then, I couldn't imagine. I mean, that had to be like owing like $100,000.
That's why you end up betting on things like hand jobs and stuff because
I know, really.
you genuinely need to raise that money.
But it's so you have that, and then you have sort of like Kevin Bacon's relationship with his family, and
Fenwick.
Fenwick. Daniel Stern. Obviously, there is some tension in his marriage.
Well, of course there is, because Beth doesn't ever ask him what's on the flip side.
Yeah, she obviously doesn't know how to. She doesn't understand his organization system for his records. Come on, and so those are the main characters. Because I mean, you have Modell, but Modell is like, I think he's just like sort of like the comic relief. I don't feel like he really has a story other than if he ever figures out the his hang up on the word nuance and gesture,
right?
Which felt so very how Seinfeld did that.
That's very Seinfeld.
As soon as I heard that, I was like, dude, that's like, did Seinfeld like look at to say, I should make a whole show based on talking like that?
It could be. I'm hoping that Modell, and this is for our Baltimore people, I'm hoping that he figured out himself by starting a sporting goods company.
Maybe.
Or something like that.
But
that's the other thing. Some of these, the real people they were based on, like they started very successful local businesses. So this isn't a movie about people who are like.
Isn't Boogie like? Isn't he like a?
Well,
is he a billionaire?
Yeah, he's done pretty well. But like he was the merry-go-round stores around here.
He
and
was
going to
buy
that got sold. And I think Modell's got sold, and the Modell's end up owning sport. Like
he was one of the guys.
Teams
Yeah,
stuff,
he was one of the guys that was going to bring before Steve Bisciotti. He was going to. One of the ones that was going to bring the NFL team
back,
here. Yeah. So, I mean, you need lots of money.
But that's my point. Like, these guys it's not a story of losers who got out of high school and are stuck. There are some people in here who don't know what they want to do. And so Kevin Bacon's character, he obviously gets a lot of pressure from his family. He doesn't know what he wants to do. His solution is, I think I'm going to go to Europe. That's not an option for a story about people who are really stuck, that they don't have resources, they don't know what to do, that sort of thing. So that makes it feel more, I guess, I don't like this term, but slice of life-y kind of thing. But you're watching a snapshot of 1 week in the lives of these guys, and for some of the stuff, it's a pretty pivotal week. I would argue that Paul Reiser's character not having a very pivotal week.
Yeah.
But like especially Boogie and Daniel Stern for his marriage, and then Steve Guttenberg getting married. But you see, Billy, Tim Daly's character.
I mean,
he's in love, and he got some woman pregnant, and she's very, very forward for the times, and it's like, why are we getting married? That's stupid, and I'm not leaving my job in television, and all that kind of stuff.
The dialogue in this scene, or in this movie, I do feel like it's I do feel like it probably inspired a lot of. I mean, I have to say, I do feel like the even whether it was directly responsible or not, had to inspire the opening scene in Reservoir Dogs. That's the Madonna, the whole Madonna thing.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Whether he knew it or not, it's just
guys sitting around chatting.
Yeah, and also talking about like pop culture stuff. I mean, they're having a whole discussion about Johnny Mathis and Sinatra,
right,
and Elvis Presley,
whoever they are.
Yeah, whoever those guys are. I hope they did well. But they are. That's very much like reminded me of something that it's guys sitting around eating, in a diner talking about sort of like really just mundane stuff, but it's sort of like it's revealing character through just pop culture discussions. The only thing about it was that once Tarantino kind of took it to the next level and put it, like, I kind of feel like this is more subtle, where it's like it's like I feel like you think about. I feel like when Tarantino does it, you realize it's happening while it's happening. This was sort of like one of those things like after the movie's over, you know, when you start thinking about it, I feel like it's not as like in your face. And how it's like revealing like the characters and sort of what they think, because like especially when the Mathis Sinatra, you know, you have this back and forth between these two guys, and then here comes Mickey Rourke, and he's like, I don't like either of these two options. I like Elvis, and that like that does some lifting for his. I don't necessarily say it's heavy lifting, but it does reveal something about his character. He's like, oh, of course, the guy who's the rebel. When you present it with two options, he's going to pick option. You know, the third option that you didn't present to him.
But then it becomes very clear that being a rebel isn't really serving
him.
No,
that's true too.
He's getting beaten by, you know, people he owes money to and stuff. And you know, you could say he doesn't get beaten that badly, but he's up against real deadlines and stuff. And then he gets saved by a bagel. So
yeah, so that's true. Who was
Michael Tucker?
Very Baltimore. I remember first seeing him in L.A. Law, and I saw him actually he was in some sketch. I don't know if it was a Tracy Ullman show or something like that, where he does a Baltimore accent. When I first heard it, I was like, oh, come on, man. And then I found out he's actually from Baltimore. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. So he knew what he was doing. That's sort of like in the Baltimoreans, where it's like, you know, they just amp it up. Yeah. They knew.
What do you mean they amp it up? I don't know what you're talking about, huh?
Listen, I'm going to go wash the coats. On television.
I'd rather go down the ocean, okay?
Down the ocean.
Get some crabs. Oh, hey, let's talk about Cal Ripken. But I think
the O's?
The O's. I love the O's. No, I mean, you know, I don't have that strong of that kind of accent. I'm not going to pretend I don't have an accent.
Sure.
Because my parents are from New England and I grew up in Baltimore. So when I lived in LA, all the people that I talked to that had a comment on my accent, which were mostly women that you know, they can say whatever they want because I'm interested in them. They were like, oh, you have such a cute East Coast accent. And when they would say that, I'd hear in my head, New York, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, like those are all very different. And that's just white people accents.
Well, it's funny because as far as the accent, like, well, apparently Barry Levinson said, no, he didn't want anybody to play up the accents at all because Kevin Bacon wanted to do, because I guess is he from Philadelphia, I think, or something like that. But the Philadelphia accent's very close to Baltimore accent.
It's similar. Some of it's a little flatter tones, but it's definitely sounds like family. Yeah.
Sometimes when there is, I wish I knew what this creator's name was. There is some creator. I've seen her on Instagram. She's probably on TikTok, I guess. She does Philadelphia ASMR, and it's so funny.
Oh, that's great.
She's like. She's like, and it's so funny because whenever she does it, she talks about the grandmother in the family as mums, which is what my kids call their grandmother. And she's like, hey, put on your coat. We're going to see mums and pop-pops.
That's funny. So funny. Well, my roommate freshman year in college, I went to Penn. I went in Philly.
Yeah.
And I really liked Philadelphia. I think it's a fun town. And my roommate was actually local. And he grew up in North Philly, North, whatever they call it. And he went to Judge High School for those big Philadelphia audience we have and stuff. And I remember it was super nice guy, but I remember how distinctly similar and just different enough he sounded from all the real Baltimore accent people. Yeah. Because I think Philadelphia and Baltimore actually have quite a lot in common in their neighborhoodiness and everything. Yeah. I don't think that Philadelphia has as much of it's not quite as I guess parochial and a little bit of an inferiority complex because they never lost their NFL team or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's very distinct. And this movie, without pushing the accent thing, does feel like a snapshot of a real place in a real time and all that kind of stuff.
Well, he said that Barry Levinson said that he didn't, because he just wanted them just to. He felt like if they started pushing the accent, that was going to be distracting to the story.
It would. It's cartoonish, and so it doesn't.
And the only
matter.
person that does it is Bagel,
right?
And Bagel is really Baltimore.
I mean, and then most people wouldn't if the movie becomes a big deal, which it did. I mean, eventually Barry Levinson got an Oscar nomination for the screenplay and stuff. Yeah. I don't think people that aren't from this region of the United States are going to get excited or bent out of shape that somebody said water wrong.
Yeah,
they got some water to drink, that kind of thing.
Well, we so water. And also water or water. I used to say spider, which is funny because one of my favorite superheroes was Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. And I remember one day, I was a kid, I didn't realize the accent and somebody one day said to me, "What are you saying?" And I said, "Spider-Man," and they're like, "Spider?" I was like, "Oh, sorry, Spider-Man."
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
But that's a big thing in accents, of course, too. And literally, where do you put the accent on the word?
Or a lot of
some
vowel
of that
sounds.
just sounds really alien.
It was funny. I remember when I used to one of the places I used to work. They said that they could tell when I was on the phone if I was getting sort of like excited because about something. If I was talking to someone, they could tell I was like really into the conversation because then I started stressing the O's, which is very Baltimore.
That's very
thing.
Baltimore. Don't I know it?
Oh God, I'm gonna get home.
Yeah.
It's
so funny. It's funny because like when I was learning Hebrew, I love learning languages and how languages are structured and all that kind of stuff. And there's a thing in Hebrew that there are words that are like a mil'el or a mira, and it has to do specifically with where the accent is put. And when you talk to someone who's learning Hebrew, you can kind of tell sometimes how well they're learning it because you're like, oh, that's the backwards version of where you're saying it. And if they had done that with Baltimore accents in this movie, I am sure there are people who could have pulled it off. These are all fine actors. They were young at the beginning of their careers, so they were fine actors. If they blew it, it would have blown it for us as Baltimore audiences saying that's not authentic. But I don't think anybody outside of Baltimore would have necessarily said that it's accurate or not, but it would have probably come off as cartoonish because when you do a Baltimore accent really thick, it sounds so different.
Sounds like you're putting it away.
Yeah. So, which I love, by the way.
Oh yeah. But it's so fun. And it's very funny because it's like, I was raised by two people with that have strong Baltimore accents.
Indeed.
And it was so it comes out, a lot of times when I talk. So who knows? Maybe it comes. I actually had somebody ask me where I was. I had somebody that, from here ask me where I was from, and they thought I was from like another country. I'm like, it's not really that bad, but that person was dumb.
Well, it's funny because also like when people get the Baltimore accent, when they do it correctly, like in The Wire, there are actors that are local actors. Like Stan is one of the commanders or something, and he's from Baltimore. He sounds like he's from Baltimore. But Kathy Levin did an amazing Baltimore accent in a season of American Horror Story as a bearded lady in the carnival. And then I remember I saw The Revenant, the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, which I didn't care for, but Tom Hardy is in it, and his accent is like straight out of Dundalk. Yeah. It's kind of amazing. And I was like, where? As I know his thing is doing a different voice for each character, which sometimes can be a little distracting. But I was like, how did he come up with this character? God is a squirrel and all this kind of stuff. And then I found out he was actually doing a pitch perfect impression of Tom Berenger in Platoon. And then I went and I listened to that and I was like, I don't think of that as Baltimore, but I could see how we got there. Because when he started talking, when I saw it in the theater, a bunch of people started laughing. Yeah. So we were like, wait. He sounds like, wait, what? So I think this movie, there are definitely parts of it that are very Baltimore without sounding like we're making fun of Baltimore. Whereas which is a premise of a whole section of the Baltimoreans. Yeah, making it funny. Yeah, because it is funny.
So kind of what I think is amazing to me is that, and I didn't realize this, that as far as like sort of the trajectory of Barry Levinson's career, is that he was actually started out as a writer. I had no idea he wrote Mel Brooks movies, and he also wrote Justice for All. That was like, and I found that out. I had no clue.
I didn't know you did. Yeah, no, he's. I think his first directorial anything was a TV movie, and then this was a feature. This was his first feature. But he had already been working and doing good stuff, like Justice for All.
He is also because he sort of like these directors and where he has little bit parts here and there. He is the person as far as acting who and I think in High Anxiety, Mel Brooks' High Anxiety, who I guess they recreate the Psycho scene. He's the one that's going to stab Mel Brooks, which is really funny.
That's funny.
And then also he
I just found a picture of that. Yeah, that's great. That's really funny.
And his hair wasn't completely white at that point.
Yeah, I know. Very young Barry.
Yeah, but he, one of the things that I thought was just like a really smart idea is that when they were shooting this movie, he shot all the diner scenes last.
Because then the guys already knew each other, basically.
That was what they were going for. And I was like, that's pretty smart.
Okay, he wrote Silent Movie, which is funny to think that, it's a screenplay with no dialogue. Yeah. That's traditionally how people think
I saw that on Super TV.
Nice. Yeah. Silent Movie, High Anxiety, and Justice for All, and uncredited on Tootsie. So
Because I also remember he is like is he a psychologist? He's some doctor in Rain Man at the end of Rain Man.
is he? I
Yeah,
don't
because he's the
remember
one that keeps asking Dustin Hoffman, and it's like you could see like Tom Cruise getting visibly upset because he's like Raymond, like he's like drilling him with these questions, like one question after another, and he's
funny.
like, and he gets like really upset.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
I know it's a I'd be I mean, we talked about this before. My youngest son is autistic, and my middle son's also on the spectrum. I'd be curious to see that movie now.
Yeah, me
'cause
too.
and just to see how what I think of the portrayal. I don't remember anything being necessarily problematic. I mean, as far as his portrayal, I know there's a few things that are a little strange, like with Tom Cruise's girlfriend and him, and like things like
Yeah.
a little weird. But I'm talking about as far as the portrayal of someone on the spectrum. I'd be curious to see how that holds up
It doesn't feel, as I remember, it doesn't feel insulting
or exploitive or anything like that.
exploitative. I mean, it does some of the autism is a superpower thing.
Yeah.
Like, he can count toothpicks, so we can make money in Vegas, kind of thing.
But you know what though? Honestly though, there are people out there that will.
No,
do
there
that.
are.
Yeah,
There are. But,
and I think
but a lot of people that are on the spectrum don't have a superpower, which doesn't mean that they are in like some sort of lower group of
Sure.
people or something. It's just for people who saw the movie. I mean, to me, some of the fixation on People's Court seems more realistic than they're going to go win in Vegas, because people they don't have to be on the spectrum for this, but people will get really fixated on stuff and act out and things like that. And the movie, I think it was very gentle towards Raymond.
Yeah,
I thought that was good, because it's not super sympathetic to Tom Cruise's character, because he's a dick, because he's playing Tom Cruise, who's always a dick, who maybe goes through some kind of reformation or something. And that's not a criticism of Tom Cruise either. Like,
I think
really
he
plays
needed to
that
be
well.
he needed to be a certain place to complete that arc. In case anybody wonders why we're talking. That's a Barry Levinson movie.
Oh, yeah,
as well.
sorry.
I feel like we didn't make that. I just said he was the psychologist, but I don't think I made that clear connection.
He did that major award-winning movie, Rain Man, which God, I don't even know what year is that from. Like 88 or something.
Oh, is it? Oh God, I thought it was like mid. No, I guess it wasn't mid 90s. It was way before mid 90s. So you might be right.
Let me look. Because I mean, his stuff that he's done recently has been, he did a couple of really quite good HBO movies, like with Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, based on true events and stuff. But he made a bunch of features for a long time. Let me see. When was Rain Man? 1988.
Okay, good call. I did like the opening scene of so here's the funny thing. I'll keep this really brief because I'm sure nobody really cares about this part. I found an old DVD player in my basement that I specifically was looking for. I didn't just stumble upon it, and I hooked it up to my computer so I can watch. I have like a ton of old DVDs, an old DVD collection, but just standard DVDs, and I hooked it up, and so I had actually I inherited some of the DVDs, and Diner was one of the ones that I inherited. I'd actually never seen Diner before this.
Before we watched this?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But I was like, I gotta watch this. So
you had a whole Arrival.
Yeah. So I was like, and I put it in, and it starts playing, and there's that little thing in the beginning where they're talking, and then it went right into the movie, and I was like, oh, this is actually, I really did like the way that they did that. I do feel like in the that there's there's something about like that really gets you into like those long like tracking shots. And of course you think of one of the more famous ones in Goodfellas, but also the opening to Boogie Nights.
Sure,
I love the one of Boogie Nights because that's the one where they go from a crane all the way into a club. Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
P.T. Anderson's one of those directors. When he shows off, I'm like, more of that, please. That's fine.
Yeah,
because it really serves the story and everything. And Barry Levinson's directing style, I think he's got some distinct stuff, but it serves this story well. And some of it is because he's a new director, so he's not. I mean, not every new director is Kevin Smith.
Yeah,
whose cinematographer wants to probably kill himself because he's like, I get it, another 2-shot, lock it down.
We're gonna do one over his shoulder, one over their shoulder, and a 2-shot.
Right,
let's go. Move on.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the arrival of a major director. So.
I did feel like and they're playing Isley Brothers Shout and at the beginning
Oh,
part,
right, yeah.
and I thought I was like it really not really knowing. I really didn't know what to expect from this movie. I mean, okay, that's not true. I kind of knew what to expect, but like specifically didn't know what to expect. I knew this was going to be a movie about Baltimore. I've heard so much about it, and I was like, I really should watch this movie.
I didn't realize you had missed it.
And I
mean,
knew,
legally, it's like I live in Harford County and I still don't own a pickup truck. Like I'm going to get in trouble legally.
Yeah.
So if you're from Baltimore and you grew up in Baltimore, like the fact that you didn't see Diner is kind of interesting.
I know, and I think this is one of those ones that it was like I was always going to watch it. I mean, I've seen a lot of movies set in Baltimore, and I knew you had seen the Baltimoreans, and I knew that was one you were interested in doing.
Yes.
An episode on. So I was like, hey, why don't we do when we do a lot of these episodes? Not always, but we do try to have some kind of theme because we usually will record two here. I don't know how the sausage is made, but we do two at a time usually, and so we try to come up with like a theme. It makes it interesting for us, and hopefully interesting for you guys as well. But so we were like, oh, well, we'll do a Baltimore themed one, and so I was like, well, when I thought Baltimoreans, because I was like, well, what are we going to pair with that? And it's like, well, Diner seems like sort of an obvious choice, at least to me anyway. So anyway, the point is that
I just think it's just funny. It's an obvious choice. I haven't seen it, but it's an obvious choice. That's
well,
just
no,
but
because
they're
what
very
I know
Baltimore.
About it, that's what I mean.
They're very Baltimore.
It's a surface level obvious choice. That's probably a better way of putting it.
They're both really in a good way and in a real way. They're both really Baltimore movies. And if you wanted to see a Baltimore movie, there are worse places to start than Barry Levinson movies. Sure. Even though at this point his Baltimore movies are a generation or two old, and about a generation or two before they came out, which is interesting. But I
want to talk about that. But I want to put a pin in the whole 1950s nostalgia thing. So I don't want to forget about that. And I will say this movie is something that when I watched it initially, like because sometimes when I watch a movie, I have this thing, I'll think about like, oh, I like that or whatever, and then, but once I actually start really thinking about it, my opinion might change. And I think, when I first, like right when, the credits came, I was listening to the conversation, the credits, and I was like, I don't know. And then the more I thought about it, I started like thinking, like kind of like picking it apart in my head. I did like it, like probably like the next day I kind of felt like, when my mind kind of marinated in the whole experience, I was like, I kind of did like it. I feel like I liked it a little more because I think sometimes I'll sit there and think about like, the intention of the director. And I think I kind of, when I first watched it, I think I kind of got it wrong with what he was trying to do. And I think it's sort of what we were talking about before. It was like, is he really intentionally trying to make these characters this way? Or is he just telling goofy stories? You know what I mean? Like I don't think I was getting his intention as much as I was. And I thought about it when I think about it in that light, like, everything was more intentional than I probably realized. Then it made me feel like I think my opinion of the movie felt, I felt better about the movie.
Well, also keep in mind, this is a movie that you can classify very broadly and accurately. This is a Baltimore movie. This is a movie that's a coming-of-age movie about a group of male friends. Just that second one, coming-of-age movie about a group of male friends. American Pie is a coming-of-age movie about a bunch of male friends who are really interested in girls. And those two movies have actually quite a bit in common, but also quite a bit that's different. And I think the biggest thing for this movie is that it feels more personal.
Sure.
Not that I don't find American Pie exceptionally relatable.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like it was, it was written by the Weitz brothers. It might be based on them growing up. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like I'm taking you back in time.
Sure.
To when my friends and I, were at a high school and trying to figure ourselves out.
I feel like Diner is a more honest experience, if that makes sense. Where like American Pie is like, hey, we're being wacky, you know what I mean? Funny.
Well, I remember,
and it can be true.
I saw,
but it could be
in 1999. I saw American Pie in the theater with my mother, and Eyes Wide Shut in the theater with my
Oh my
father.
God, you saw American Pie with your mother?
Yeah. So
Kill me now.
So there's the scene where Jason Biggs is dancing for the foreign exchange student. He doesn't realize it's being what we would now call live streamed or whatever to all these people. And my mother, I still remember my mother turns to me and she goes, "Are boys really this ridiculous about sex?" And I said, "Yes, mother, they are." Yeah. So there was some authenticity in that silly movie.
Sure.
But this I think is it's a good example of a couple of different kinds of formula films, and I don't love this movie. I didn't really super engage with it emotionally, but I engaged with certain parts of it and I enjoyed it. And I think if you're from Baltimore, it's good to see it. But I also think it's kind of a neat way to see. Barry Levinson became a big Hollywood director for a long time, and you can see right out of the gate that got that attention.
Most known for his famous movie Toys.
Well, he's also, his reputation, I've only met him once. He's a very nice guy.
Only once?
Well, here's the thing is, I grew up in Baltimore.
You gotta step up your game.
Who hasn't met John Waters like that? And who's also awesome. I love John Waters.
Well, I had never met him personally, but I was somewhere where he was like right there. And I was like,
if you want to count that, you can.
So yeah, I'm one of those guys, like when I see celebrities, I'm like, I don't want to bother them.
Well, I saw him in New York. He was doing an art exhibit, and a friend of mine took me to the art exhibit, and so I went and we were.
This is John Waters or Barry Levinson?
John Waters.
Okay.
And so it's like you can actually meet him. So I went and I shook his hand, and I was like, "Hey, how you doing, Mr. Waters?" He goes, I'm good. And I said, "I'm from Baltimore." He got like, "Oh, that's so great. He came up here."
Yeah, he's a cool
All
guy.
of his stuff was all about Baltimore anyway, but a different Baltimore.
Yeah.
But Barry Levinson did the movie Sphere.
That's right.
And I went to the movie. I went to the premiere of that movie in Westwood. So I'm at like Sharon Stone was there, all this kind of stuff, and I not the greatest movie.
No,
so I
definitely.
So I left to go to the bathroom.
It wasn't the greatest book. So.
No, it wasn't. I left to go to the bathroom, and I'm at the urinal, and two people come up on either side of me, and it's Barry Levinson and LL Cool J.
Nice.
And I normally would respect. We're all men. We're urinating. We're vulnerable. You don't talk.
Yeah.
But I just said, "Oh, it's really fun to see this movie because I'm from Baltimore," or something like that. And we ended up having a nice chat with LL Cool J and Barry Levinson about Baltimore while we peed. And we never shook hands or anything like that, which is totally appropriate. But he is just supposed to be a nice guy, and I think even though these guys in this movie, I wouldn't characterize them all as nice guys. They're not bad guys. They're kind of figuring themselves out.
They're not 100% likable, but they're not.
Well, like real people.
Yeah, that's true.
Like real people.
I peed next to Johnny Cash.
Nice.
And I was like, I didn't want to say anything. I was like, I had to put my head down. I was like,
well, I shouldn't have said anything. We were peeing. Like, it's not cool, but
I did see Martin Mull. I did say hi to Martin Mull though. I
In
was
the
walking down a
bathroom?
hallway. No, not in the bathroom. I was working on a commercial that he was, I think it was like for Red Roof Inn or something. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
And he was coming down the hall and I said the dumbest thing. And he was very nice about it. And I just looked at him. I was like, I did like the white person smile, where we like put our lip like halfway up our face. I did that white person smile and nod. And I know, I'm sorry. It was so white. And
were you able to contact Mr. Mull and reconcile with him after this?
No.
Oh,
I know, unfortunately, but no. I haven't told you the most embarrassing part. I went. Was it Colonel Mustard?
Oh, God.
It was so.
That's
and
great.
it was, and he just smiled at me and shook it. He did the white person smile back to me and shook his head.
Well, you weren't wrong.
I wasn't, and I was just like. And I was like, I walked away, and it was like, as soon as I passed him, I was like, "Can I kill myself now?" Because it was
really funny.
It was so embarrassing. But he was so, you know what I mean? It was like, he was very nice about it. But I was just like, I can't believe I just said that.
Well, he did a fine job in the movie Clue as Colonel Mustard.
I got that. I got that 4K.
Nice.
Anyway,
Does it have all the endings?
yeah, I think so.
Okay,
I haven't watched it. I got it at Christmas. And I haven't watched it yet, so I got to watch it. Anyway, back to. I just want to do a couple technical things before we wrap up here. One of the things I did want to talk about, Peter Sova, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. One of the aesthetics that he was trying to go for, and
Is he the DP?
he's the
Okay.
cinematographer. I'm sorry.
Gotcha. That's all right.
And we talk about this a lot of times. What these cinematographers say they're inspired by. Sometimes you do go, really? But it comes out in different ways though. Like what people and I do like that because sometimes you don't want to see an exact replica, or, of the interpretation of what they were, where it feels like, oh, this is just a copy.
Right.
But he was going for, are you familiar with the Edward Hopper, that his most famous painting is
In the diner.
the Nighthawks,
sure.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually, when I saw that's what he was going for, I kind of went back and looked at some of his stuff, and I was like, and there's like two in particular. Where there's one called New York Movie, which reminded me a little bit of the movie theater scene, and also, a little bit. Like I said, it's you can see some. You know what I mean? If you look at it and you go, I could see that. And there's another one called Chop Suey. And those two, I kind of was like, oh, I could see where he was saying he was inspired by that. It was they did most of the movie. I didn't realize this until after it was over. Most of the movie takes place at night. Like the only parts that I really remember during the day is there's the Steve Guttenberg when Tim Daly wakes him up.
Mm-hmm.
There's the scene where Mickey Rourke, when the loan shark comes and sees him where he's working.
Yeah.
I
And the horseback riding.
That's right, the horseback riding.
Out in I guess Green Spring Valley.
I guess
the horse country.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it could be. I mean, like if we're talking about close proximity to Baltimore, probably that would be.
Yeah, just go up Green Spring Avenue and you're there. You can turn left on Shawan off of Falls Road.
Shawan Road. But yeah, I mean, it was fun. This is what I was saying before. Is like, like living in Fells Point. I remember seeing a lot of those. The
Fells Point, like the Fells Point Diner.
Yeah, well, which doesn't exist.
No, it does not. Well, it's movie magic.
Yeah, it's movie magic. Also, there was a lot of, and this is another reason why it kind of reminded me of the American Graffiti. All the music. It was like wall to wall music. I mean, there's music playing like throughout a lot of the movie. I kind of like that. That was it certainly helps you get into the mood, into the era.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like the way Scorsese does with Goodfellas. I mean, it's like, and that's traveling through different eras, so you kind of really get that feeling. When you're like started out like in the 50s and you ended up in like the 70s. It really is it's just a good way to kind of immerse you into the scene. Or the setting. This is what I meant. It is interesting to think about how most of these guys, I was like looking at this because everybody was like, well, these guys were like really nobodies. And I was like, really? When that came out? But they really were. Probably Mickey Rourke, he had a small role, but like an important role in Body Heat. And that's really, all these other guys, they really had hardly been in anything of note.
Yeah.
Kevin Bacon had been in, he was on a soap opera. He was on, I think, Guiding Light or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. He was under contract and was trying to decide if he should renew it or not.
Yeah, but like none of these guys had been in any. This is Ellen Barkin's first movie.
Is it?
Yes.
Wow. She's very good.
I love her in Buckaroo Banzai.
Sure.
Yeah, that was that's
another gentle, realistic film.
I know. It was such a weird movie, but I love it. And I think it's also interesting to note that Kevin Bacon apparently hated the movie when he first saw it.
Oh, really?
He was like, this doesn't, because it seems like everybody's mumbling. This movie doesn't make sense.
It does have, I guess you could
Mumblecore,
call it Altman-esque or something.
Yeah.
And it is funny that, our next movie in Baltimore is a Duplass movie, which is Mumblecore Gods.
There you go.
But yeah, no, I mean, that's part of making it real, is them talking over each other. Because, young guys, you and I talk over each other because that's how people talk over each other sometimes. And that's it's a consistent and realistic acting choice and directing choice.
Definitely Altman and Paul Thomas Anderson does that a little bit too. Especially like a movie like Boogie Nights, there's a lot of that. Did you like the geriatric stripper and the first lady? The first lady, I was like, oh, she's working the day shift apparently.
Yeah.
She was a little, I was like, wow,
sad.
She's kind of old.
It hurts your heart.
Yeah.
No, I liked her that she was basically like, they go to the diner after, a different diner, and basically a hamburger place, and
tavern.
She could be that's right, and she could be their mom. And it's kind of sweet. And it made me think of, I think it was Varsity Blues, where the football players go and it's their English teachers on stage. It's like, that's not what you expect, but it's kind of sweet.
I also so this is the thing I wanted to bring up about 50s. We were going through, there was sort of like this 12-year run or so, about roughly from the early 70s up until about the mid 80s, where 50s nostalgia was huge. Maybe even a little bit past the 80s, but you had because so Diner kind of lands in the middle of all that. Closer to the end.
Because to me that kind of ends. It peaks with Back to the Future.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say.
But that's because we have to start manufacturing 80s nostalgia.
Yeah,
80s.
So, but they have because you had you have American Graffiti, which I think really sort of kind of gave us that the template also for that I think is really the first. Probably not the first, because maybe Blackboard Jungle, maybe where it's teens and music and like that sort of These are teens or young adults doing their young adult thing set to a cool soundtrack. But you had American Graffiti in 73. Then you have they made a musical out of Grease. And then and don't forget, during that time, we're actually almost covering that whole span from 74 to 84. I didn't realize it went all the way to 84. Happy Days was on TV.
Yeah, sure.
And then, until they quite literally jumped the shark.
Yep.
Thank you to Gary Marshall for giving that into our
Yep.
lexicon of TV speak. And you can't forget with Porky's, which was based in the 50s. That was 81. That came out. And then you said Back to the Future. And I guess, also Back to the Future too had a little bit. But I feel like you were more heavily steeped in the 50s in the first one.
Yes.
And then, and I guess this was, it kind of, while Diner, I have to go back and look at that. I meant to actually look up the numbers on that. I don't know how much of a financial success. It was definitely a critical success. So it kind of fit in there with because Porky's apparently, I think, made a decent amount of money.
Yes.
And
it's not one of my favorite films.
No, and it's but it's it does fit in there. You have a musical, you have American Graffiti, you have the raunchy comedy, it was all kind of and then you have this, which is sort of its own, Diner's sort of its own thing, but it's all within that sort of that 50s nostalgia genre of the time. I mean, there's really not much more that I had to talk about when it comes to Diner. Did you have anything else to add?
I mean, I already talked about urinals, so I think I've got everything pretty much covered.
Nice. We don't want to piss anyone off. So with that, I guess that's a wrap on Diner. I actually wanted to ask you, do you have any story-related type media that you're enjoying recently or have enjoyed recently that you want to share with anyone?
I'm enjoying The Pit.
The Pit?
By the time that we're recording this, episode 7 came out this week of, I guess, 15, so we're about halfway through the second season.
Oh, is it 15 episodes? Really? I didn't realize it was that many.
It's, each one is an hour of the shift. And, this season, pace-wise, is more mellow, I guess, but it's still good. It took a little while to get going, but it's nice to get back with the characters and stuff. And a movie that I have mentioned on this show a time or two finally just came out on 4K disc, and I just got to rewatch Predator Badlands. And that is just a really fun, satisfying movie, and I was able to share it with my wife and a good friend of ours who hadn't seen it, and were nice enough to wait until the disc came out, because it also came out on Hulu, and it's the #1 movie on Hulu. I think it's the biggest premiere since the director's last live action Predator movie, Prey. And I don't know, Predator Badlands is just really connected with me, and it's also a really satisfying thing. It's just one of those things you can look at it and you can go, you know what? That's a really great screenplay. It's a really clear, well done story. It's well executed. It's really satisfying. And people who don't like sci-fi or Predator movies or monsters or any of that kind of stuff, worth their time.
Did Prey come out during COVID?
Yes, it came out in 2022.
Okay.
It was initially we're just
going to put it on. When I saw it, I saw it.
They were we're going to just put it on Hulu, and it was a big hit on Hulu, whatever that might mean. And if it hadn't been COVID, they might have decided to put it in the theaters. I saw it on Hulu and thought it was great. I would have gone and seen it in the theaters. So that was kind of a missed opportunity because of COVID, which, you know, not everything can be Tenet, I guess. but yeah, that was the first movie that Dan Trachtenberg did of the now 3, and we've done 2 episodes on his 2 other ones. So
I am currently. I actually just watched last Saturday. I watched, and you guys, we exist in a weird time space bubble, so you have no idea what that means. But last Saturday, my wife and I watched Knives Out. I have not seen any of the Knives Out trilogy.
There's 3 of them now.
There's 3 of them now.
I should have waited for you to say the word trilogy. I would have figured it out.
The most recent one came out just on Netflix just a couple months ago, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds right.
It may came out in December, and so that is. So I think we're gonna work our way through those, and then I think I'm gonna try to convince my wife to watch Pluribus.
I hear good things. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that as well.
That Apple, they do some good stuff, and also apparently some computers. I don't know.
I heard. Who knows?
But their fruit is no good. Not fresh.
So yeah, don't bite into an apple.
No.
That could be a problem.
No.
Anyway, so hey, why don't you follow us on Instagram? We're at StoryPunkPod, and that's where you can get all your updates about when the episodes drop. I'm sorry, I had a little drop off there because just with the weather and just digging ourselves out. I mean, the weather here was terrible, and I'm sure some people that are listening were probably affected adversely as well.
We did have a lot of snow that stuck around.
Yeah, so it's just I was so busy with other stuff I had trouble getting out like the updates, but I am back on track with that. So you go to Story Punk Pod on Instagram, and then you'll see when our new episodes come out. But they come out every Thursday, and you can find us on every, your favorite podcast platform. You will find us on there. So that is, that's where you can find out your updates. We also have a Facebook page, and I try to put, in addition to putting the updates from the Instagram page on there, I do try to, if I can find some interesting like stories, cinema story type related stuff, I try to put that on there as well because it's a little easier to do that on Facebook. And other than that, I'm also on Letterboxd. We're both on Letterboxd. I am Storypunk Scott on Letterboxd, and Drew is on Letterboxd as well.
Solid gold.
Yes. And you can go and see our wonderfully thoughtful or sometimes silly reviews of movies. And I think that's all for this week. So be sure to check us out next week where we're going to review yet another Baltimore movie, The Baltimoreans.
Mm-hmm.
And
a little different.
A little bit different.
A little different.
And with that, I will remind you that story matters.